character who wants something, who encounters a problem, who meets a guide, who gives them a plan, calls them to action, and then we know what success and failure looks like. So transferring that to your brand. What you need to understand is when you're creating the story, what you're doing is you're actually not telling your story. You're inviting the customer into a story. You're engaging them in their own story, actually, and telling their story back to them. And so what you need to understand is that the character of the story is not your business. It is the customer. The customer is the hero of your story. And you need to identify very quickly and succinctly what it is that the character wants. And you need to articulate that in all of your branding. You almost need to say, I know that you're looking for blank. Because what that does is it doesn't make the character have to burn too many calories. They understand very quickly, oh, this is my story. This is what they're here for. You know you want marketing. The problem is your messaging is confusing, and which makes you feel frustrated. Then the guide comes in, and this is the biggest shift of the Storybrand framework, is you are the guide in the story, not the hero. And you need to position, the story is not about you. Because when you make yourself the hero and you talk about yourself all the time, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in competing stories with your customer. And so I may like you, but I'm not going to give you money because you're out for your win and I'm out for my win and you're not in my story. So never, ever, ever position yourself as the hero in the story. You're the guide. And the way you do that is with empathy and authority. So we understand what it's like to be where you are. We understand how frustrating that can be, but we've also won the day, and we've helped other people win the day. So we understand how frustrating it can be to lose out to an inferior competitor, but we have helped over 10,000 companies clarify their message and win the day. Empathy and authority, that's all you need. Then you give them a plan. This is how we do it. And it's a 3-step plan, 1, 2, 3, and you show them how you're going to help them win the day. Then give a clear call to action, buy now. Don't say learn more. That is not a clear call to action. Say buy now, schedule a call. What is it that you want them to do? You have to give them something to accept or reject, or they will not do it.
So wait, I have a question right here. Yeah. So JJ, we talk about a lot about relationship marketing, right? You have to build these relationships. So how long does it take to build all this up, to build up a trust level where they will even make a phone call, where they will, because often they won't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
well, they will, they're more likely to than we think. A lot of times I think people, if you're worried about, so we never want to be those people who are like, I'm the crazy guy who's sawing a mattress in half. Call now, like those kind of like, we're not going to be over, or call now. We're not those people. And I would say that if you're concerned about overselling, then you're probably not. that you're probably actually underselling. It's good to be conscious of bombarding your customers with too much ask. But the thing is that so this is part of why that comes way later in the story. You've already introduced that you understand what they're looking for and that you understand they have a problem. So and that you've been there and helped other people and you have a way forward. And then you're asking them to buy. So you're not just doing it. In fact, so in my book, I have a book coming out March 17th. And in the book, we actually talk about how relationships are built, right? So it starts with curiosity. So when people are curious, you don't want to ask them for the sale. They're just like a little curious about you. They want to know a little bit more, but you actually have to educate them. You have to build the relationship and call them to action through that. So it starts with curiosity. And when you start by just speaking their story, when you say, I know what you're interested in, and I actually have experienced your same problem before. That's not coming in and just going, buy now, call now. You're setting that up down further in the story, even if it's 2 sentences. This does not require a full, you need an entire video and an entire sales funnel. You can actually do this in 2 sentences, and I'll show you in just a second how to do that. So just to finish out the framework, so after the call to action, you also need to cast a vision for what life is like if people buy your product, which is success. So when they buy your product, they have more free time. They're going to be able to grow. They're going to engage with customers more. And you have to acknowledge that if they don't buy your product, they're probably going to continue to be frustrated. Right? There is some failure. There has to be stakes in the story. The bomb that's about to explode cannot be filled with baby powder. It has to be a real consequences for not doing action with you. So that's kind of the whole framework. So what we do is we help companies write out those 7 elements of their story, basically just 1 or 2 sentences that identify the talking points out of each of those buckets. And then you ultimately put it in your sales collateral, in your sales funnel, everything from a one-liner to a website, lead generator, emails. And that's actually what my book does. It's called Marketing Made Simple. And it walks through every step of how to use this language and very quickly create, it's literally step by step. Here's what to put in emails. Here's what to put on a website. Here's what to put in lead generators. But to give you an example of this, so here's something. If a lot of times I go to a party and I say to somebody, what do you do? And they start out by going, well, it's confusing, or well, it's complicated. Based on what I've already said, if somebody tells me what I do is complicated, they're making me burn too many calories. I have no idea how that has to do with my survival and thriving, and I'm immediately starting to turn off. I may be interested in them, but I'm not automatically drawn in to engage or buy something for them. And what's funny is what people don't realize is when we say things like, well, it's complicated, what we're trying to say is, I'm really what is really subconsciously being said is, I'm really smart. You're probably not going to understand. What you want to do is take those elements of story and start to plug that into even answering the question, what is it that you do? So when somebody asks me what I do, I start with a problem that I know they're experiencing. So let's just say, for instance, for your audience in this, I can imagine that many of them, like go-getters, like let's even take it out of the marketing and messaging space, which is what I really work in, but we also just communication framework in general. So let's say so many people who are entrepreneurs and go-getters start building this company, and they get a ton of people around them, and they have a hard time getting everybody on board with the same mission. I just start with a problem. And then I say, so I actually work for a company called Storybrand, where we use a story framework to help people clarify their message. And when they do that, they actually see more engagement, more buy-in, and the team is united around a single mission. Problem, solution, success. So problem, plan, success. I just took 3 elements of the story. So what I actually say when somebody says, what do you do? If I don't want to engage with them, I say I do marketing and branding. Like if I'm on an airplane and I don't want to give advice, they go, what do you do? And I go, marketing and branding. And they're like, oh, neat.
Yeah.
And then put the earphones in and we're done. If I'm if I really want to engage, or I'm in an Uber and, I know I'm going to be there for 10 minutes and that's it. I will say, they'll say, so what do you do? And I'll say, well, a lot of companies are so close to their product that they have a hard time explaining what it is they do in a way that gets more customers. At Storybrand, we've created a 7-part framework that actually helps people clarify their message. And when they use this, their businesses grow and their customers engage at a higher rate.
Okay, wait. So I want to pause you there, because what you're saying is, for you say it all the time, so you know it so well.
Yes.
But I want to break it down a little bit for the people listening.
Yeah.
So, when let's talk about going to a cocktail party, and someone comes up and they ask you, JJ, what you're saying is you tell them a story, but you have that hook. I talk about this a lot with shows, is you need an opening hook to get them in, to get them to buy in. So you're saying something that is probably their pain point if they are an entrepreneur, a business owner, or even involved with business. And then you lay out how you do it, but you're doing it concisely. So you're not all over the place saying, oh,
so you're not causing people to burn calories. No,
it's very,
you're not telling the full story, right? So that just engages with the curiosity. That's really the first level of the sales funnel, is getting people curious. When I give that one-liner, usually then people go, oh my gosh, that's exactly me. Or yes, that happens all the time. Tell me more.
Yes.
That's when now you start. And what I do then is I start again with a problem. So people will go, now tell me more. I say, well, a lot of people like waste a lot of time creating marketing. They want good marketing, but they have no idea what to write in their emails or put on their website. It's just guessing. So now I'm ramping up the problem a little bit more. And I say, they put up a website. They think that they've got this beautiful website and sales are going to go through the roof, and they don't. It's just flat. Or people call and ask them to solve a problem that you don't even offer a solution for. So I'm just ramping up the problem. And then I go, it's because they're telling the wrong story. And then I will explain a little bit more about the full framework and that you're the guide, not the hero. And then this is always important. You have to show why that matters. So at the end, most people just go, so this is what we do. But you actually have to tack on. And when people do this, they see this kind of success and they stop feeling this kind of failure.
Yes.
And that's all part of it, because it's not that people are dumb, it's that they don't have time to go there on their own in the story. We think, we just say, I have a messaging framework that helps people clarify their message. That's not going to engage. I'd say when people use this, their business grows, they get more customers, their websites convert more, their emails convert more, and they stop being frustrated over the fact that they're wasting time and money just throwing spaghetti at a wall to see what works. See what sticks, right? So and that's the way I think now. I just think in a story framework.
There's so much there. And I want to clarify a little bit more about why I love Storybrand. One, I've seen it work multiple times. It's helped my company. It's helped my son's company grow really, really rapidly. We have read your book, the first book that, the Storybrand book.
Yep, building a story brand.
Building a story brand. And then now there's this marketing book. But the core elements that you are talking about, all of you listening to this or watching this right now, I want you to make sure that you're paying attention to what he's saying. I see all the time. I see you guys putting stuff out on Facebook and Instagram, all about you. And although people might think you're beautiful and gorgeous, that is not going to get the phone ringing. And that's what JJ's talking about. So with everything you do, with your blog posts, with your stuff on social media, if you're going to get up and talk on stage, it's the same thing. And once you get this down, it becomes your habit of what you're repeating over and over and over.
This is the thing that really drew me into Storybrand, is I was in marketing and I was in branding, but I always felt like I had to tell like this better story and show how great we are and all these things. And it felt a little grandiose and it felt gross. It felt like I'm just trying to sell myself all the time. And I hated that. If you would have asked me before, are you a salesperson? I would have said, no, I am not. And yet I am, because once I shifted my mindset to say, I'm not the hero, I'm the guide. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. And so the way I talk about myself is how I can understand. I understand your problems, and I've moved a way forward. And the other powerful thing about understanding that you are the guide, not the hero of the story, is if you think about it from a movie perspective, the guides are the strongest characters in the story. The heroes are weak. Heroes are up and down. They doubt themselves, then they win the day, and then they get in trouble. And then they get the girl, and then they become selfish, right? They're up and down. They don't actually become the hero till the very end. But the guide stays consistent the whole time and is there to help the hero win the day. So when you position yourself as the guide, you're actually positioning yourself as strong, not weak. And you're saying the character, subconsciously, you're the weak one, and I'm here to help you move through your journey. Because if they could do it on their own without you, they would, and they don't need you. But there is a problem, and you have to articulate that over and over and over again. So the guide stays consistent, the guide stays strong, and the guide talks about themselves. But the only reason, if you think about Hunger Games, right, the guide is Haymitch. He has won the Hunger Games. Have you seen Hunger Games?
I have, yes.
Okay, yeah. So Haymitch he's the guide to Katniss. He's won the Hunger Games, and he knows what it's like to be in that arena and have to kill children. So he knows the pain. He has empathy, but authority. He's won the day. If the movie or the story is about Katniss opening a thrift store or falling in love, Haymitch doesn't matter in that story. He's just a drunk in the town. However, so somebody else would need to come in. So the only reason Haymitch matters is because he's been there, done that. We don't know anything about, was he married? Has he been married? Did he have a successful career outside of this? What's his family like? How old is he? We know nothing about Hamish. We think we know Hamish. We only know Hamish in relationship to Katniss's story. So same thing for us as entrepreneurs or business owners. When we do About Us sections on our website, you can do About Us sections. In fact, some of those on websites are the highest click buttons, About Us. But when I say something along the lines of About JJ, you will not see that I was in a Missy Elliott music video in my bio. You won't see even some of the stuff that I talked about in that personal part in the beginning with us. You'll hear me talk about my passion for communication, my passion for story, my passion for helping people get a clear message and give the microphone to the good people. I'm sick and tired of people who have inferior products but are louder about their message and more clear, winning the day. I'm tired of it. I want to give the good people the microphone. So that's the stuff you will see in my bio. You don't know if I'm married. You don't know how many kids I have. You don't actually know where I live. You just know my story that I want to tell you in relationship to your problems and how I can help you win the day. That's it. So that's same thing on, like you said, Instagram, blog posts, everything. It's fine to talk about yourself, but it's only fine to talk about yourself in the context of the people's story. And because guides are consistent and strong through the whole story, you don't ever want to be, people talk about vulnerability a lot in relationship with customers and getting to know you and stuff. You can be vulnerable in every area of life except the area that you are going to guide people in. So essentially your product and service, you cannot be vulnerable in that. So, and let me give you, if you listen to the podcast, you heard my story about, I went to a dentist because I had an emergency tooth extraction. And I went into the dentist and he took an x-ray and he stood there and he stepped back from the x-ray and he started going, this is going to be rough. This is going to be rough. I do not want my guide, my dentist, being vulnerable in that moment. I don't want it, right? I don't want him to go, man, this is going to be hard. I don't know how we're going to do this. And he literally was doing that.
It's like a commercial.
Panic attack. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. That like when good, when okay is not good enough, right? So you can be vulnerable. So if you sell business coaching, but you want to be vulnerable about your kids, that's fine. That's actually totally fine. Or vulnerable about like how you're confused about finding a place to go on vacation. That's fine. But when it comes like, man, business is really hard, isn't it? And I just still some days don't know what I'm doing. You think that's connecting with your audience? You're not. You're positioning yourself as a hero. You have a problem and you need a guide, but you're not my guide. So you can say business is hard. I have been there. I have been there where it was tough and every day was a struggle, but I found a way forward, or I looked to somebody to help me and now I help others. So you can be vulnerable of I was struggling in the past, but I found a way forward, or I've helped a way forward. I've worked with people who struggled. So feel free to be vulnerable in any situation except the situation that specifically you're going to charge people to fix.
Got it.
Do not be a vulnerable guide. You can be vulnerable personally, but not as a guide.
Okay. As a parent's okay. With wine is okay, but not
100%. Yeah.
And
you don't want to say, man, you know what I mean? You don't want to say, man, being an entrepreneur is rough. I wake up every day and I don't know what I'm doing, but we're doing this together.
Yeah. Do you have your credit card out? Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And I love everything you're saying because you're making it so simple. Really. I mean, so many of us struggle and, try to figure out what's going on in our business, right? Why am I not making these goals that I set? I'm working really hard and I'm doing all of this. I'm putting up my posts, like I said, I'm sending out blogs. I'm doing everything. Why isn't it working? But as a coach, if I come in and say, oh my gosh, I know I'm having the same problem right now.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you trust me? Makes sense.
And that's the thing is any of us who've been in marketing or branding or talked about ourselves for a long time, a lot of the stuff that I've just mentioned in the story framework is pretty intuitive, or we've stumbled upon it by accident, like something we posted or said, like really connected. And it's like, oh, that worked. Why did that work? Well, because there's rules. There's actually rules to all of this. And when you follow the rules, it works. And so same thing, I've been doing and teaching this for 20 years. And I came to one of the very first Storybrand workshops as a client. I was going to brand my television show. And I just came, Don was a friend, and I just wanted to come and check it out because he's like, oh, you'd be interested. And I fell in love because it took everything that I'd been trying to do in marketing and talking about myself and raising funds for nonprofits, and gave me the language and the framework to create. So I ended up doing my PhD dissertation on narrative marketing and how switching to narrative marketing actually works and why it works, and then ultimately tested it out. And basically it proved that it works for everybody.
Yep.
It can work for everybody. And the only thing that matters, like you can be a large company, a small company, individual, giant corporation, nonprofit, solopreneur, entrepreneur, new business, anything. It works the same for everybody. The framework actually is very applicable. The only variable, didn't matter if you're a man, woman, old, young, marketing background, no marketing background, the only variable was if you actually created the story and implemented it or not.
Okay, so JJ, this is incredible. I know people are going to want to know more, and you have the new book coming out.
Yeah.
Where do we go? Where do we go to find all this?
Action. Our new book, Marketing Made Simple, which takes all of this information and boils it down to how do you implement this? Basically, how do you make money off of this? How do you get people more engaged? The book is called Marketing Made Simple. You can get it on Amazon. And when you get Marketing Made Simple, you can go to marketingmadesimplesummit.com and you'll input the number off your receipt, and you will get some videos that are part of our Marketing Made Simple Summit, which is 5 videos that basically pull back the curtain on how Storybrand thinks about marketing and gives you some tips you can start using now, even before the book comes. So order Marketing Made Simple, then go to marketingmadesimplesummit.com and register, and you'll get videos and get signed up, and you'll get 5 videos that basically things we've never talked about or written down before that pull back the curtain and go, here we go.
I love it. And I think the more that I've listened to all your podcasts, I have the first book, I'm going to get the second book because I use it with my clients. But the more that we hear it, the more that we go through these programs, you buy a $20 book, what an investment, right? Yeah. And then go through the program that you're talking about. The more we hear it, the more it becomes in our DNA. 100%. So yeah, thank you so much, JJ.
No
this
problem.
has been, my head's blown. I know that it's going to help so many people, and I just appreciate you spending a little extra time with us.
I love it.
Share your wisdom. Thank you. And